The city did not vanish from history. It vanished beneath the sea. 4 to 7 meters below Egypt's Aboukir Bay, streets, monuments, anchors, and ships preserved the remains of a port once positioned near a mouth of the Nile. The easy story says one violent night swallowed everything. The evidence tells a stranger, slower story. To solve it, archaeologists had to answer two questions. Which city was this? And did one catastrophe really send it underwater? Start with the map. The ruins lie several kilometers from today's coast, near the former canopic mouth of the Nile. Deltas move, channels shift, sediment settles, and shorelines retreat. The modern coastline is not the coastline ancient sailors knew. Ancient texts seem to point toward two places. Egyptian records used the name Thonis. Greek accounts used Heracleion. For years, that could sound like two neighboring ports, or two traditions describing the same place. The names converged underwater. Inscriptions recovered at the site connected Thonis and Heracleion to the same port city. That identification matters. Archaeology did not begin with a dramatic legend. It began with readable evidence attached to a place. This was not a forgotten village at the edge of Egypt. Thonis-Heracleion stood at an important maritime entrance. Ships, goods, travelers, and taxis passed through a harbor system linking Egypt with the Greek world. Its harbor was a network, not a single dock. Basins, canals, anchors, ships, and monumental structures formed a working landscape. Mapping those pieces lets researchers reconstruct movement through the city without pretending every missing street is known. Then came the ships. More than 70 documented vessels in the broader research record, alongside many anchors and harbor remains. It is an extraordinary collection, but a ship on the seafloor does not automatically record the moment a city died. This is where the disaster story becomes tempting. Put ruins, ships, and seawater together, and the mind creates one enormous collapse. Science has to resist that shortcut. A dramatic arrangement of objects is not yet a timeline. Geologists tested the ground beneath that story. Sediment cores and coastal evidence point to several processes acting over time: erosion, compaction, liquefaction, and relative sea level rise. No single word explains the whole transformation. Compaction is slow but powerful. Water-rich delta sediment can compress under its own weight and the weight above it. As the ground surface lowers, buildings do not need to be dragged downward by a mythical force. The foundation itself is changing. Liquefaction is different. During strong shaking, saturated sediment can temporarily lose strength and behave more like a fluid. It can contribute to sudden damage. But evidence for a process is not proof that one event destroyed the entire city at once. Add erosion and relative sea level rise, and the risk compounds. The shoreline retreats while the land surface becomes lower and less stable. The useful model is not a trapdoor. It is several environmental pressures changing the same coastal landscape. Now the mystery changes. The question is no longer which single disaster swallowed Thonis-Heracleion. It becomes, how did a busy delta port become increasingly vulnerable across centuries of environmental and human change? There is another crucial limit. Geological evidence can help explain submersion, but it does not by itself tell us exactly when or why every resident left. Abandonment is a human history. Submersion is a physical process. Their timelines can overlap without being identical. The ships carry the same warning. Researchers describe several possible histories: wrecking, abandonment, ritual deposition, or reuse as parts of harbor structures. Different vessels may have reached the archaeological record in different ways, so build an evidence board. Direct finds include inscriptions, anchors, ship timbers, monuments, and mapped harbor features. Geological interpretation connects measured sediments to coastal processes. A complete cinematic collapse belongs in a third category: reconstruction, not observation. That separation does not make the story less exciting. It makes the investigation visible. Viewers can watch names converge, harbor pieces assemble, sediment layers compress, and competing explanations survive or fail as each new clue enters. Here is the answer. Archaeologists identified Thonis-Heracleion by combining inscriptions with the mapped remains of a major port. Geology explains why this delta landscape could sink and erode. The strongest account uses several causes, not one cinematic night. The sea did not erase this city. It changed the archive. Stone, timber, sediment, and inscriptions now preserve different pieces of the answer underwater. Learning to read those pieces is more powerful than forcing them into the disaster story we expected.